Hello, welcome. Let's have some discussion on the topic variation. And as the word itself said, variation, that is just to vary data or to vary functions. So we can say a variation is just a measure of what? The change in values or in variables or in function as just a mere definition. Or we can also say that a variation is a relation between a set of values of one variable and a set of values of another variables. So it is a relation between two functions or two variables. Now we have different forms of variations which could mean the types of variations. We can also consider a direct we can call it a direct variation, or we also call it direct proportion. Then we have, if it is not direct, it becomes what? Indirect or inverse. Inverse variation, which could also be known as what? Indirect. Indirect proportion. We have what we call joint variation, which combines the direct and the indirect together. Then we have what we call partial variation. So these are some of the forms, or better still, the types of variation, whereby one quantity, the relation between one variable is being related to another variable. Now, when we take the first one, which we'll be treating in this episode, direct variation or direct what? Proportion. It is more or less like comparing two quantities mathematically. Let's just say, for example, you want to buy, let's say, an article. You are going to buy a book. So let's say if the cost of the book is fixed, the cost of the book is fixed. Let's say the cost of the book is what? 10 Ghana cedis if you buy one. So we are going to compare the quantity of books to the price. So as you buy one, you pay 10 Ghana cedis. So as you buy two, you are going to have double of that 10 Ghana cedis become what? 20 Ghana cedis. So as long as you are increasing the number of quantities, the price also what? Increases. So we are saying this is a direct relation, or is a direct what? Variation, whereby there is a change in the quantity which brings up a change in the price of the books. So if you buy 5 of the books, you will pay what? 5 times the constant. That constant is the price. So you can see that there is a change in the variation, that is the quantity, and there is a change also in the price based on what? The constant, which is the price of the book. So if, for example, we are taking an equation which is equation of a straight line. If we take this equation and we are using the y and the x as the variables we want to see its variation, its changing, then if m is a value that cannot is a term that cannot be associated with 0, but this becomes 0. So if I'm having c to become 0, then I can say that y will be equals to what? Mx. So this, I want to compare the y and the x. In this case, if this is the price or the number of books, this is the price, or this is the price, this is the number of books, you can see that one of this is going to be the constant price. The constant that we are saying 10 Ghana cedis, which we are going to call the constant. So if I am buying one book, so if this is one, the price is going to be what? 10 Ghana cedis. So let's say 10 Ghana cedis times 1. What do you think I'm going to pay? What I'll be paying is what? 10 Ghana cedis. Then if I vary the quantity, the constant is still the same. I'll still be paying 10 cedis for one book, and I'm buying 3 of the books. Then the amount I'm going to pay will not become what? 30. You see that as I vary the x, the y also vary. The variation between what? One variable bringing a change in another variable, whereby the 10 remain the same. Let's see, I want to buy 10 of the books. Don't forget, the cost is still 10. The quantity now becomes 10. The amount to pay is now going to be what? 100. You can see there is always a change in the amount to pay and the change in what? The quantity. But this remain the same. So this is what I call it what? The constant of variation, or the constant of what? Proportion. So if we normally represent the m as constant, as k, so this is going to be y equals to kx, where k is what? Constant of variation. Or we can also say is the constant of proportionality. So in this case, this is just a clear definition of what? Direct proportion, whereby we are going to say that y varies directly as x. You see that I have not mentioned equal sign. So for me to be able to write that relation, that relationship between the variable y and the variable x, I can write y varies directly as what? X, where this symbol is the constant of variation, or the constant of proportionality, which we intend bring to become k. K is constant, meaning it doesn't change. So you can see that when the price is 10, it keep on being 10. If I'm buying thousands of the book, I'll still be paying 10 for one. So that is the constant of what? Variation, or constant of what? Proportionality. You know, the variation as direct, we can also indicate that using the graph. So for example, if I have y equals to, let's say, 2x, don't forget that 2 is the constant of proportionality, or the constant of variation. So if I have this, you know, this is our y-axis, this is our x-axis. We are saying that if x increases, y will also increase. So let's just begin by taking the x being 0. I am not buying any book. The 0 times this will be 0, making x to be 0. So a direct variation always pass through the origin. So the line, which is the straight line, is going to pass through here. Now if x is 1, y will become what? 2. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. If I have 1, 2, 3, 4. If x is 1 here, y is going to become what? 2. If x is 2, 2 times 2, 4, then y become what? 4. Let's say if x is 3, this will become 6. So if I have 5 and 6, this will be here. So you can see this is going to be a straight line. Don't mind my curve. It's a straight line, direct straight line. So you can see that as the values on the x-axis is increasing, is varying, is changing, the values on the y-axis is also increasing. If you increase, I increase. The increase is done by the constant. So it could also be the constant is going to be, let's say, negative 10. So it means the negative 10 will be the one that will be varying the values of y. So we have one to be dependent. So y is dependent on what? X. Where x is what? Independent. So this will determine the values of this. So this is just one way by which we can represent direct variation using the graph. Question number 1. So if y varies directly as what? X. Find the constant of variation when y is 2 and x is what? 4. So we are going to start our relation by saying that y varies directly as what? X. Y varies directly as x. And this can be translated into a question form or equation form, as in y equals to kx as our equation, where k is a constant of variation. Alright. Now, when we are from here, we were told that when y is 2, x is what? 4. So when y equals to 2, x also equals to 4. Let's substitute into the equation and get the constant of variation. So in place of y, you'll be having 2. So k times x, which is now what? 4. So you can see that this can be written as 2 equals to 4k, which is the same thing as k times 4. We need the k to be isolated. So we divide by 4 by 4, meaning the constant of variation will be 1 out of what? 2. So this is the constant of proportionality. Then we have this, we have this. So this could be, so if the value of y increases to 4, this is also going to increase based on this constant. The constant is going to be half. That is the constant of variation. Alright. Here, given that y varies directly as x and y is equals to 8 when x is what? 2. We have to find the value of y when x is what? 3. So in this case, we can be asked to find the value of y when x has increased to 5. So using the constant of proportionality, you can find different variation of what? One variable when the other is given. So from here, we know y is varying directly as what? X. Translated in the form y equals to kx as our equation. So in this case, when the value of x equals to 2, y is also equals to what? 8. So now let's substitute and find our constant of variation. So 8 in place of y equals to k times what? 2. Right? Which in the other way we can be 8 equals to 2k. So we divide by 2 in order to find the k, which is going to be 4. 8 divided by 2 is what? 4. So now we know our constant. So it means the x and the y are varying by the constant of 4. So if I want to find, so now let's substitute k equals to 4 into our equation 1. So if you put this k equals to 4 into equation 1, it's going to be y equals to 4x. In place of k, we have 4. So now we can find y when x is now what? When x is 3, your y is going to be 4 times 3, which will give you y to be what? 12. So you can also find y again when x is 15. You just multiply 15 by 4. Then your y will become what? 60. You can see that as the x changes, the y changes based on a certain value, which is the constant we are referring to. Question 3. P varies directly as the square of what? Q. So this is going to be our P varying as the square. When y varies, let's say we are saying y varies as the square root of x, meaning y will be varying as the square root of x. That's the meaning. If y varies as the cube root of x, y will vary as the cube root of x. Y can also vary as the cube. So y can be varying as the cube of x. So the variation, which is the constant, will be there. If you open it, it will become k root of what? X. So that's what we are doing here. So this is going to be translated as P equals to KQ squared as our equation. Okay, so now let's see how we can find the constant of what? Proportionality. We are going to do that when P is equals to 3 and that of Q equals to 2. So P will be 3 equals to K 2 squared, which we can say 3 equals to 4K, right? 2 squared will be 4. 4 times K will be 4K. So divide by 4. Your K will assume the value of what? 3 on 4. So now we know the constant. We are looking for Q when P has been changed to 27. So we are now going to put K equals to 3 on 4 into equation 1, which is this. So we are going to have P equals to 3 on 4 Q squared, right? So we are looking for Q where we know this as 27. So 27 is equals to 3 on 4 Q squared. This is an equation that involves a fraction. So multiply through by what? By 4. So 4 times this will give us 108 equals to 3Q squared. We know we are going to divide by 3 by 3. So in this vein, we can have our Q squared equals to, I believe if 3 goes here, it goes there 3 times with a remainder of 1. So we have what? 36. We are looking for Q, not Q squared. So we have the square root of Q squared equals to the square root of what? 36. This will cancel this. Q will be equals to 6. So it means that as we are increasing the P to 27, the value of what? Q will also what? Increase. You can see it was 2, now increased to 6 because of the constant of what? Variation is 3 out of what? 4. You can see in this, under the definition we have, we said the direct variation or direct what? Proportionality or direct proportion. You see that here we have not been asked to find the constant of variation. So I can just say that my y varies as what? X. Mean y first. So I can have y1 divided by x1 is a proportion, right? Is equals to y2 over x2. The values in here. I will be taking this as y1, x1, y2, x2. Then I will substitute. So I will be having 8 over 2 equals to y2 that we don't know divided by x2, which is what? 3. If we cross multiply, you get 2y2 equals to this time this will be 24 divided by 2 divided by 2. Y will be equals to 12. You remember we got 12 for the y when we first find the constant of variation. So we can also solve the question without the constant of variation, since the definition says that direct variation is the same as what? Direct proportion. You can find the proportion of the two variables, then you find the missing one. Alright, thank you so much for watching. Like this video, share it with your friends. Let's continue to learn. Come back to this space for the next episode, which will be inverse variation. Bye bye.